Podcast Junkies, episode 365. Welcome back. I'm your host, Harry Duran. Regular listeners and viewers of the show, thank you so much for everything you do to support this podcast. Whether you've been following me since that first episode way back in 2014, or you just recently found me on YouTube or Apple or Spotify, I truly appreciate everything you do to share the word about this show. If you are new, this is the show where I interview fascinating voices in the world of podcasting. I get them to kick back their heels and talk about their shows and whatever else is on their mind. I'm also the founder of Fullcast, our Done For You podcast production agency. In case you missed the last episode, we had a fantastic, well-received conversation with April Adams Bertui. She's the host of the Inside Story podcast and the founder of Light Beamers. In that episode, April shared her journey from broadcast journalism to becoming a storytelling coach, highlighting how her experiences helped shape her passion for storytelling and help others tell their stories as well. We discussed the power of storytelling, the challenges of starting podcasts, and the importance of being present and compassionate when interviewing others. April was kind enough to interview me on her show this week, the Inside Story podcast, and it was a great follow-up to our conversation, almost like a part two, so make sure you check that one out as well. This week, I'm thrilled to welcome Jordan Gass-Pooré. She's an environmental journalist and a podcast host who's been covering hazardous sites and environmental issues for years. We dove into her journey from a small town in Texas to becoming a passionate investigative reporter in New York City, my hometown, which is fun for me whenever I get to connect with someone with some New York City energy. Jordan shared how her early interest in horror stories, of all things, and journalism led her to create her first podcast in college, and how she's since become fascinated with reporting on hazardous sites across the country. We explored her work on the podcast Hazard NJ, which focuses on environmental issues in New Jersey, including PFAS, pollution, and Superfund sites. She offers insights into the challenges of investigative reporting and the impact her work has had on communities. We also discussed the evolving landscape of journalism in the face of AI, and Jordan's thoughts on the future of environmental reporting. Throughout the conversation, Jordan's dedication to uncovering important stories and her unique perspective on environmental issues really shines through. Here are 5 takeaways I want you to listen out for or look out for in this conversation. Number 1, pursue your passions early. Her early interest in environmental issues and journalism led to a successful career. Start exploring your interests and gain experience in your chosen field as soon as possible. Number 2, embrace diverse experiences. Jordan's varied work history across different media outlets and projects has enriched her skills and perspective. 3, find your niche. Jordan's focus on hazardous sites reporting demonstrates the value of specializing in a specific area. 4, be open to changing perceptions. Her experience with New Jersey changed her preconceived notions about the state. Stay open-minded when approaching new subjects or locations in your work. And 5, one of my favorite topics, use storytelling to make complex topics engaging. Jordan incorporates horror references and personal stories to make her reporting more accessible. You too can do the same. And again, if you're enjoying this episode or past episodes, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. And you can also leave us a rating and review at podcastjunkies.com/love. I'd love to read yours out in a future episode. Enjoy my conversation with Jordan. So Jordan Gass-Pooré, host of Hazard and Fumed, and a lot of other projects we're going to get into. Thank you so much for joining me on Podcast Junkies.
Thanks for having me, Harry.
So it always feels good to connect with someone and then immediately be greeted with some New York City energy.
I try. I've only had one latte today. After this, I'm going to get another one, but
Okay.
I'm not fully caffeinated like I normally am.
And you're in Queens, you were saying?
Yes, I've been in Queens now. This is my 8th year.
Okay. What part of
Yeah,
Queens?
Long Island City.
Oh, yeah, perfect. You get the view across the water of the city.
It's nice. Yeah, my
Yeah,
partner who I moved in with, he's been here since 2013, like in the same apartment. And so
yeah.
we've kind of seen, and especially him, like the evolution of this neighborhood where like
Mm,
used to be, single people with not much money to now I went to like the bank down the street and I was like, oh, I want to put in $20,000. I got a grant like for this
yeah.
organization. And they were like, I just opened up an account for 20 million. And I was like, there's someone with 20 million. They were like, oh, this neighborhood has a lot of money.
Wow. That's
Uh,
crazy.
so it's
There's that.
changed. It's changed since
It's
I've been
changed a
here
little bit.
even.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a town called Seguin in Texas. It's
Okay.
about like 45 minutes south of Austin. So it's a very different experience than New York. Like Long Island City has about, I think the last time I checked, about double the population of my town, like just my neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's weird. And also like Seguin is not a walkable place.
yeah.
And yeah, it's a very different vibe.
How long were you there?
In Seguin,
Yeah.
Oh, I was born and raised there. So I left at 18 to go
Okay.
25 minutes down the road to college.
Okay.
But officially I left Texas at 25.
Okay.
So I've moved around since then, but yeah, I have no desire to move back to Texas at all, but I visit a lot and I do
Yeah.
environmental reporting still in Texas.
Yeah. What's the one thing that you do miss about Texas?
What do I miss about Texas? Well, I would have said about 3 years ago that it was nice to have a winter that's 70 degrees, but
Yeah.
now it snows,
Yep.
and now it's freezing, and so that's not there anymore.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
though I don't know. I do appreciate though the personalities, the like the cultural aspect of Texas, of the like southern nicety. Like it's
Mm.
very different, and it is slower pace of life, but
Yeah.
people are generally at least outwardly nicer. New Yorkers are
Sure.
nice too, but it's a different nice,
A different kind of nice. Yeah.
Yes.
You don't always know what you're getting. I think the thing about New York yours is that they'll tell you to your face how they're feeling.
Yes, and
And
Texans will not. Like in my experience, you'll find out like so and so told me that so and so said about so and so, so and so, so they don't like you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's that southern charm. I think like the someone said something because I used to live in Atlanta too for like 3 years, and so like they'll give you like the pie, but meanwhile they're like muttering and talking shit about you like under their breath or something like that. So
Yeah, it happens.
yeah.
It happens. And like, my hometown too, at least when I was living there, everybody, sort of knew each other and knew your family.
Mm.
And I went to, kindergarten with most of the same people I graduated high school
Oh,
with.
cool. Wow, that's
So that
wild.
that was good and bad at
Yeah,
the same time. And
yeah.
like teachers of mine, either went to school with my parents who both went to the same high school as
Mm.
me,
Yeah,
or they taught my parents. So they
that's
already like
wild.
had this idea in their head. And like so many teachers, I was talking to my mom the other night about this. I was like, so many of my female teachers would be like, "Oh, is your dad Kevin Poiré?" And I was like, "Yes," but how they would say it was like, "Oh, like they liked him. They thought he was
He was
hot."
he was the hottie, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, this was weird, actually.
That's
Yes.
hilarious. The small town vibe is really interesting because I moved to Minnesota and then we went up north for my partner's her parents grew up in Hibbing, where Bob Dylan was born. Um, and they have an all class. They don't have a class reunion, they have an all class. So basically everyone who went to school like at any year like shows up. And so like her parents are like saying hi to like someone who was like in grade school and they're 70 now, so they're just like it's wild, and they close down the whole street and it's like the whole neighborhood comes out, and it was just as a city person like it was just crazy, like everyone like knew each other for like long time, like 20, 30, 40 years. Oh yeah, we were like that's Joey from like sixth grade. I'm like this is crazy, there's two 70-year-olds like hanging out, and it was just interesting because you hear about like small towns in movies and stuff like that, but until you experience it and you see like the vibe, like everyone just kind of knows everyone's name and business, I would imagine too. So it's
Yes,
wild.
and your family member's business and know all the
Yeah, yeah,
stuff. And
yeah,
like it's so weird. I mean, like my best friend, we became friends in sixth grade when we went to school together, but we
yeah.
found out years later from a videotape. We actually had met when we were like 3 or 4 years old at my second cousin's birthday party. Anyway,
That's
watch this
so funny.
video, and I was like, "Wait, is that you, Kristen? We knew each other at like 3?"
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's so crazy.
So
So
weird.
what was Austin doing at that time, or did it just pop off later?
So yeah, I mean, Austin at the time, because I have family that live in Austin and they've lived there since
Oh,
the
okay.
70s.
Oh,
And so
wow.
like when I was a kid, I remember driving up I-35 from Seguin and like there would just be nothing but fields along
Yeah.
I-35. And then I got to middle school and that's when you started seeing like land for sale. Buildings started popping
Uh,
up. By college, most of I-35, like all of that was just filled with apartments, big box
wow.
stores. And Austin, like when I was in college, I did a lot of my early journalism in Austin, like interning at publications there,
Yeah.
because I could take the bus from my college town. I didn't drive. I didn't get a license till I was 23. And in
Sweet.
Texas, like, and like early on without smartphones, like
Oh
my
yeah.
freshman year of college
Oh yeah.
was a whole momentous thing that I don't even know how I did. And in the heat, waiting for a bus for like
Oh
30
my
minutes
God.
to an hour.
Oh
But
wow.
Austin was the place, yes, like I would go with my friends, as we got older to go and, go to the bars, and like South by
Yeah.
experience. And it was all relatively chill
Yeah.
still. And then I would say like about the year I left, this was like 2014, 2015, that's when I saw like there was a shift. And a
Yeah.
lot of like the old timers that I like my old editors, you know, who had been there since the 60s and 70s were like, I'm priced out. I'm gonna have to
Oh,
leave.
wow.
You know, the salary's not going up. Most of them were
Mm,
working at like independent, like the Austin Chronicle and like newspapers that, you know,
mm.
they weren't making much money. But it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, you know, they had been there for so long. And the signs started popping up in people's yards that said, Californians, go back home.
Already
I
that
remember
early.
seeing so
Wow.
many signs and like people getting so angry at people from California in particular
Oh,
for
yeah.
ruining Austin. And it's
I,
just now, every year I go back and it's just like traffic is hellacious.
yeah,
Like
it's crazy.
it's weird to see how things have changed because a lot of my favorite places are gone that I used to
Mm.
go to. Now I feel old where I'm like, I remember
Yeah, what's that street that had all the like the quaint like bars and stuff like that? And
6th Street?
no, not Sixth Street. No,
Okay.
no. It was a smaller one where there's like sky rises now.
Oh, Rainy Street?
Rainy Street. It was so
Yes.
cute. It had all these like nice little bars and stuff like that. And we went years ago with my partner, and there was some still up, and there was a nice little stroll through there. And then we went recently, and I was like, wow, they just totally decimated that. Just killed off that vibe.
And that was supposed to be that's
It was
something
supposed
too,
to be
like
historical, yeah, right?
historic, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's really sad, like when you read the history of that area and like what, you know, how it evolved, and then it became, yeah, when I was in college, that was like the cute. I mean, there were
Yeah.
bars and stuff and restaurants, but like all the cute houses. It really did. It makes me sad because I was back there in October and we stayed at a hotel
Mm,
near Rainy Street. And my partner and I were walking around too, and I'm like, how did this city let this? How is there a sky? That means they
yeah.
tore down these
Yeah.
historic homes.
Yeah.
It made no sense to me.
Just really short-term thinking. It's crazy.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot with Austin. And like, I get people in New York though, whenever I say I'm from Texas, they're like, what do you think about Austin? And I'm like, don't move there.
Yeah, exactly. You missed the boat there already.
Yes.
So when you were in high school, like, were you doing a lot of writing? Did you know like what your trajectory was? And was this just how far back does that passion go?
So I remember, because my family brings this up, that I was 8 years old. So I love horror. Like, I love
Oh,
horror,
okay.
novels, books, any kind of
Really?
horror medium. Like, ever since I was a very small child, I've been obsessed with horror. So when I was 8, I had said, I was reading Stephen King.
Oh, yeah. Which
And I was reading Carrie, because I remember that too,
is
because
great.
my teacher saw me with Carrie. And had a talk with my mom and asked her why would she allow her daughter to be
Oh
reading
God, please.
Carrie. And my
Yeah.
mom was like, she understand, like
It's a
it's
book.
fine.
Yeah.
But I told my family, I was like, I want to be the female Stephen King, and so I started writing
Mhm.
horror short stories.
Wow.
And then I had this harebrained idea that, well, you know, early on, like creative writing is not going to make me a lot of money, at least not at first.
Hmm.
But there's this thing called journalism, and I'm
Hmm.
nosy. I like to write. I like
Yeah.
people. Why didn't I do this to pay the bills? And I could write creatively on the side.
Mm.
So in middle school, I started actually getting involved in journalism. I reached out to the local newspaper in Seguin, and I
Okay.
reached out with the local radio station that's like an AM Christian based
Yeah.
station, KWED.
Yeah.
And I started like doing random stuff for them. And then in high school, I had a little column because KWED had this like print supplement
Yeah.
called what was it, like the Seguin Daily News or something. And they
Okay.
gave me a column about like what was it like to be a high school student, you know, in
So
this
you're just
time
working around
period.
town. You got your little notebook and your
And I
little
would interview like
microphone and
people.
stuff.
Yeah, and I interviewed people around town. I remember like I interviewed my high school English teacher, like,
Oh, okay.
and like they let me go on air a couple of times to talk, and I, you
Oh,
know,
fun.
I learned some of the ropes, especially to like radio, like being able to see, you know, the basics of a radio station and like how to
Yeah.
like work a board and
Early
you
on.
know, very early. I was just like, you know, it's there. I'm sure they need the help. I'll do it. I mean, at that point, I
Sure.
was like doing it for free. So,
Sure.
and then it just kicked off from there. Like high school, I started getting really involved outside of Seguin. I started working freelancing and actually getting. I remember I got $25 one time for a movie review, and I was like, "Oh, that's the big bucks."
That's what movie was it?
Oh god, it was The Family Stone, which is a terrible movie. It was a terrible. I love Luke Wilson though, who's also
Yeah.
from Texas, and he was in it. So
Okay.
I was like, "Oh, I'll go see this because it's free because I'm writing
Yeah.
this free.
Yeah.
Like, give me a ticket, whatever."
Yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible. But I got really, really involved. So I
Yeah.
you know, I have family in San Antonio, so I was doing stuff with like the San Antonio Express News, which was the big
Mm.
publication there. Pretty much everywhere I could get my hands on who would ever take me to write whatever. And then in college, I worked at the campus newspaper and I worked at the college radio station,
Yeah.
and that's when I decided like I wanted to start doing podcasts. Was
Mm.
at the college radio station. I remember I went up to our advisor, who's still I think the advisor there, super chill dude. He was a former DJ, tatted
Okay.
up, like totally cool.
Did,
He's like,
did he have a DJ voice? Like, hey.
he could put it on. Yeah, Dan was a cool little dude. But I remember I approached him and I was like, hey, first off, my college town, it's like, there's a endangered species. It's an environmentally sensitive area. I said, no one's covering the environment. I was
Okay.
like, can I cover the environment as a reporter for one of like the radio shows? He was like, sure, as long as you don't cuss, don't violate the FCC.
Yeah.
And then I said, oh, I really want to like, because I wanted to go to South by for free. Like my whole Evo planning was, how do I get to go to South by for free? And I was like, wait a minute, there's like press credentials that you could get.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, Dan, can I do like my own podcast that would just be like on the KTSW, the radio station's website? And it would be me interviewing like Texas filmmakers. And he was like, sure, again, as long as you don't cuss, like even though it's not FCC.
I like how
like,
that was the most important thing. Just don't cuss.
and he was like, if you want to do it, do it. So
Yeah.
I remember spending like multiple late nights trying to learn how to edit audio on Adobe Audition because we didn't have a course on how to edit audio. And
What
I
year
was
was
a-
this?
This was 2008. This was 2008.
Oh, wow. It's early. Wow.
Yeah, so I did a podcast called the Fourth Wall that ran for 4 years all throughout college, and I was able to go to South by every year. I was in school. I went to all the other festivals, and I got to interview all kinds of really cool people. And I'm actually weirdly one guy that I had interviewed. He's an Irish actor, and we've stayed friends like off and on this entire time because he was like, you were the first person to ever interview me. He was on the show
Oh, wow.
Vikings. Like he's been on like
Oh, that was a great show.
so I was like, dude, I was the first person. He was like, you were the
Yeah.
first person ever.
Have you ever seen that show?
I have. My mom really likes the show.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. But
So she was all impressed. Was like,
yeah.
you know one of the guys? And I was like, oh, do I know? I wish I was
Yeah.
single when I first interviewed him. I was not, sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So lots of threads to pull there. When did your concern for like the environment, and because obviously there's a through line there to present day now. So I'm curious if I asked your folks like how far back that goes. Is it something they'd not be surprised about?
Yeah. I mean, that goes far, far back. Like, I remember even as, like, I mean, this was even before I decided, like, I wanted to even write. I was really into a movie called Fern Gully about a
Okay.
little, like, fairy people that live in the woods in Australia. And this guy and this logging company, they come in and start tearing down their forest. And I remember getting really emotional as a child and
Oh.
being like, why are they trying to hurt Fern Gully?
Oh,
So that was like the beginning, and my mom like got me a bunch of like environmentally like related books, like children's books.
yeah.
And I remember one that was like this terrifying pop-up book that had this like it was like anti-whaling,
Oh
and
gosh.
and it had like this like whale popping up with like blood because someone had speared it, and like
God.
and then you could like club a seal. It was
What?
I tell my mom, I was like, next time I'm in Texas, people don't believe me. I was like, I'm gonna find because she keeps all my stuff. I'm gonna find these books and bring
Yeah,
them
you
back to
gotta
New
find
York
that
with
one.
me because it was terrifying.
And it was anti-whaling.
Yes, it was anti, yet you could literally move
Club
the
a
guy's
s-
arm to club a seal.
Oh my gosh, that's traumatic.
I don't know who published this,
Yeah.
but I got really into it. I mean, so much that, speaking of like deforestation, so, small town Texas, I was in a beauty pageant my
Oh.
junior year. And the question
funny.
was, what is the most pressing problem facing
Oh
teens?
my God.
And I was on stage all confident being like deforestation. And they're literally quiet. Like the audience, like everyone else said teen pregnancy. And I was like, deforestation. I want to list you all the
Oh my
reasons
God.
why this is a problem. I didn't win anything. No.
Yeah, it's probably not top of mind for folks back then.
No, not in 2000, like 6, 7. Yeah. No.
So, I mean, crazy stuff going on now with, especially around deforestation, right? That's at top of mind for everyone.
Did I let everyone know at 16 what
Yeah.
to expect?
I warned you guys. I told you. See, you should have listened. You should find that, if you can find that clip and
Oh,
just
there's
do
a tape. There's recording. I know. There
so
is
you can do it then now. Like literally like then deforestation 19 whatever, like 2000 whatever, like I warned you.
It would be hilarious. Because I
Yeah.
mean, me thinking that I was confident, it'd be funny to rewatch to see how awkward I probably was on
Yeah.
that stage.
But I mean, there's something in you that feels that connection. My partner is the same way. I mean, we have a tree that's being taken down. It's old tree in the backyard, but she went over to it. She like touched it. She's like, you're gonna have to come down. Sorry, like, just whatever, get your nutrients out into the share it with the other trees, and she wants to leave like 12 feet out, so not the whole thing comes down, so the critters have somewhere to live and stuff
What
like
happened
that.
to the
And
tree?
it's just old. It's just like a boxwood. I'm trying to get my trees straight here. When you live in the Midwest, you got to know your trees. Apparently, cottonwood, boxwood, box elder,
I don't
yeah,
know tree
maple,
names.
oak.
It's all
Yeah,
just trees.
I didn't know tree names. I didn't realize I didn't know tree names until I got here. It's like, okay, clearly you don't know tree. I just thought it was a tree. I mean, but it's maple. I could probably identify like a
A
maple or an oak.
redwood, maybe.
Redwood, those are the big ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know those. So yeah, it was just, I mean, it's because it's leaning over like this office that I'm in right now. So,
It's a
and
good
it's
call.
like, yeah, and you could see through the bottom of the trunk, like through the other side. So yeah, it's like on its last legs. But
That's
yeah, so
sad.
she goes outside, puts nuts in her hands, and waits for the birds to come like pick them out of her hand, and feeds the squirrels. We got turkeys on the property. They've got names. So yeah.
I
But
love
I
it.
imagine she's basically like Snow White, like out there waiting for the birds. So like she wanted to do that. Her mom said she would be out in the yard when she was little, just with her hands out, just waiting. She's like waiting for the birds to land on her. So I get the sense that you feel a similar child. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, I really love that because, I mean, and it's interesting because like my family over time, I have to remind them, and especially my mom too, about like the environmentalist stuff where I'm like, you gave me these books, we had these conversations because, Texas,
sure.
how things go that, I think my family, even though like my family has property in the hill country that's been in our family for a very long time, and
Yeah,
and I'm like, we are connected, we do
sure.
care about the land,
Yeah,
so why are you voting the way that you're voting? But I have to remind them, I'm like, this is where
yeah.
it all stems from, really, is that you cared so much about this land. And, like, there'd always be animals and stuff, too, on the property. Like, my grandmother had peacocks, and there were cats
Wow.
everywhere, and chickens, and we'd go get the eggs. And it's like, this is all part of environmentalism. Like, we want to save this land, and we want to have it as a space where animals can be. And,
Yeah, yeah,
they're all sentimental about it. And I'm like, well, other people care about the land, too. So,
yeah. Well, I think the big thing for my partner is the fact that like all these roads and developments are happening and that they're running out of land. So like every time like we see a turtle, that's been hit or a turkey that's been hit, it's like, if they die by like she'd rather like a fox take down like a wolf take down a turkey, and it's okay,
yes.
cool. If someone eats some and it's another animal, that's nature. But like when they get hit by a car, you're like, like, that's just shows how they're just losing all their natural habitat. So
Yes, yes, and it's very, very depressing.
yeah.
And my college town too, I always thought it was so cute because there is the San Marcos River, the town's San Marcos, and the river flows through the campus. Like, so there's part of campus and the river goes through it. But they would
Yeah.
have like turtle crossing signs, so
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
yeah. I've seen
cars,
those.
and the times when you just see people, like a line of people waiting for this turtle to cross the road. I'm like, yes,
That is cute.
it's great.
So you got thrown into the fray early interviewing folks. Did you have someone to model, or did you just kind of wing it?
I feel like I winged it, where I don't know.
Okay.
I think that like being younger and having an overabundance of confidence as an only child
Okay.
helped. Cause yeah, I mean, I didn't really have I didn't come from a family that like listened to NPR
Yeah.
or really like the radio outside of like the oldie station or classic rock station.
Sure, sure.
We didn't get a copy of the newspaper. No one was paying for the news. Like we would watch like the local
Yeah.
broadcasts, but
You're not reading the Sunday Times.
no one was. No, I don't know anyone in my family that has read the Sunday Times, even when my
Yeah.
own story was in it. Anyway, they don't really read that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really know, and like no one in my family has been a journalist or interviewed people. Like the closest, I guess, is my aunt who was a lawyer.
Okay.
But yeah, I just think it's my whole family likes to talk too, and I just am very nosy.
Well, that's carried through the ability to talk and carry on conversations. So 2008, that's early because I started my first show in 2000, this show in 2014, and I was like, oh man, I'm late, because I'd seen some of my like OG podcasting friends, like my friend Dave Jackson. I think he's been podcasting since like 2006 and stuff like that.
Jeez.
And like so like how did it get on your radar? Because back then there was like I remember the early days of like MP3s. It's like if you got like four songs on a player, you're just like whoa, but you have to like connect it with a USB cable to the computer and sync
Yes.
it. And I remember being in the gym and I was like, whoa, a digital file. So I'm running on the treadmill, nothing skipping, like a like a CD player. It was so crazy. I think it was called River MP3 or something like that. One of those early brands. And so like in the early days, we hear like folks talk about podcasting, like Adam Curry and stuff. He's like, oh, you just had to wire the the your iPod to the computer and stuff like that. So how did it get on your radar?
I'm trying to remember how I first even heard about podcasting because, again, like high school, nobody would have been talking about that. And in
No.
college, it was not really a conversation. Like I was electronic media major, but
Okay.
there was no mention in any of my classes about podcasting or like that's something you could get into for a living.
Sure.
It was you could go work at the radio station. So I'm trying to remember. I wonder if it was just simply like again my desire to go to festivals for free was Google searching how to do something like this and like instead of having a radio show,
Yeah.
I always was like I don't want a radio show because like once it airs, that's it. Like
Okay.
it's
Smart.
gone.
Yep.
So I would want something that would be able to be more permanent and if it could just be on the campus radio station website, it would always be there and like this is a way then to showcase to be like, "Hey, I'm actually more legit than
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
normal college student."
Yeah.
But yeah, at that point, I'm like, what podcasts would have been out? Because this was even before like Serial. I mean, like the big
Oh,
named,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah, big name
Yeah.
shows. And so, yeah, I kind of regret though, like not trying to, like trying not to. I guess I undersold myself at 18
Yeah.
doing this because I thought it was just fun,
Yeah. I could
you
just see
know.
you early in those early college days with a T-shirt that says "Ask me about deforestation and podcasts,"
Yes, you want to save the
and no
planet.
one's coming up to you.
No, and I don't think they still would, even if I would be a college student today at my university.
So, so it was interesting. I was looking at, I was like, oh, let's see where else she's worked. And they go on LinkedIn. And normally I go to LinkedIn and it's like, there's like a little drop down arrow
I
that says,
forget.
see next like 4 experiences. You had like 114.
And I
Or
have to put things there because I have a terrible memory, period. And so like I like having a list of
yeah,
things that I've been a part of and like I love forming connections with people being like, okay, well I worked here one time. This person used to work there. So
yeah,
I don't know what that tells you. Maybe this is why like I think most people who are investigative journalists in particular are of a very particular mental state. So I just have to have an ongoing list to remind myself of what I've done in the past, or I will completely forget what has
it
happened.
sounds much more efficient than like trying to find a Word doc from like 2007 with your resume, which I was, back in the days, you'd have to like do like, where did I save this file? And it's like, and you have to go back and like hunt for, you just put it all on LinkedIn. So it's like, hey, it's there. You can, I don't need a resume. It's out there already. So
Exactly.
yeah, they get a certain flavor for like the type of stuff you have to do. So do you enjoy like, kind of all these different experiences, so many different contract jobs? You've worked at so many interesting companies, NPR, Gimlet, and, in the podcasting space, iHeartRadio. Like, do you see that as just something that just enriches your experiences because you're just learning so much from so many different sources?
Yeah, no, I do. And also like I think that I like trying out new things and I want to be able to I get well one too I get bored really easy
Hmm.
and maybe that says something about my personality as well but like I like the idea of being able to work a short period of time with different companies and with different teams and really trying to figure it out like what it is I
Hmm.
enjoy doing
Yeah.
and like every year trying to like have it be something different and like it's always like my top two things are going to be like still the environment. I love, I want to keep covering the environment and the
Yeah.
climate crisis. And I do love audio as well, but I also like writing. So I like to be able to mix and match these different things and working full time at places that, I found myself like I don't like being in one track. I
Hmm.
like sort of
Yeah.
being all over the place and so freelancing to me has been a good thing. I mean, every so often I'll contemplate like do I want to go back full time? Because obviously, too, like it's nice to have a salary
Yeah.
and health insurance that like
Yeah.
a company pays for, and it's nice to have paid vacation days.
Yeah.
But then, do I really want to deal with the X, Y, and Z of like what has happened in the past? I don't know. Do I
Yeah.
really want like to not be able just to back out in a like there is no like contract stating you have
Like
it 6 months.
Homer into the bushes thing.
Yes, because I felt a lot of times that yeah, it's just like I just want to fade into the background.
Yeah, for sure. But you got to work on your water cooler banter if you do take a regular job. So
See, and I don't know if I ever want to go back into an office for that. No.
happy Monday.
I've seen Office Space. I don't want to be a part of that life.
Hump day, everyone.
You
You
got a
go to
bad case of the Mondays?
yeah, you go to TGI Fridays on a Friday.
All of that sounds terrible.
I was in corporate for a while. I mean, so I lived through a lot of that. So it was interesting to finally get out of there.
And a
Uh,
dress code?
oh my God, I wear a suit every day. Yeah, I mean, it was okay. I mean, I didn't mind at the time. So, but it's interesting when you're out of it. It's a bunch of different things, a bunch of different emotions. Because like the first time that direct deposit doesn't show up in your account anymore, you're just like, oh, okay, like I need to like make some money here. Like this is scary. So yeah, benefits. But yeah, there's something that comes with the freedom of being an entrepreneur, and it's not for the faint of heart for sure.
It really isn't. Like I've had a number of people, like different age groups, either people just entering journalism from, graduating college or people trying to transition into freelancing to, asking for advice or like, hey, should I even do this?
Yeah,
And I'm pretty realistic and I tell them like what a day to day is, whatever, whatever. And I'm like, I'm sorry if I scared you because by the end of it,
yeah.
most people are like, nah, I'm just going to go apply for that job or I'm just going to stick with the job I have.
It's weird because we're going into a new world with this AI stuff, and there's a lot of jobs that are just getting completely eliminated, especially on writing stuff. There's some basic stuff that we were doing with our agency because we produce shows with my agency, and like I'd have people write summaries, get some titles. AI is doing that so much better than that person did, and it's like, and it's given me a whole bunch of other different things of like repurposing stuff for YouTube, repurposing it in first person so I can do the read on the just I got like 20 different versions of one audio file now that I'd probably have to pay a couple $100 to like a writer for. And so I don't know what you're seeing on your end or if people are worried about having to adjust to this new world we're living in because I mean, I do everything from like simple therapy stuff on ChatGPT. Just and my partner created this thing called the Mastermind, modeled after Napoleon Hill, and you just feed it a bunch of names like, I've got like Oprah Winfrey and Brene Brown and these and Gabby. I was gonna say Gabby Reese, but that's the volleyball player. It's probably the other Gabby. So
The other
basically, she has
Gabby.
this mastermind. And she asks it questions. Eckhart Tolle and all these like bright minds, and so it takes their collected wisdom and like provides like answers as if they were like your mastermind. So things like that are happening. Like I have it help me like repurpose like ideas from my marketing emails for my business and stuff like that. So I'm just curious what your take has been, having been a writer for such a period of time, what this, if you saw the wave coming and as it was coming, like what your thoughts are on its impact.
Yeah. So I kind of saw the wave coming, but I think that for me, I personally never wanted to be the one that had to write those summary headlines or those summaries or some of the work that is now getting outsourced to AI. And I have yet to meet, I'm sure there are people who love doing that, but I've yet to meet someone who's like, yeah, that was I totally adore writing that.
Yeah, nail that title.
Yeah, and like even with social language, like I know there are people I'm sure who really love writing and repurposing and different things for the LinkedIn on the other profile pages, social accounts, but I don't like doing that. And it was always a burden. And it usually, would fall on the intern or the fellow or whoever was getting paid the least. And so I, already understanding like nobody really thinks of this as real work then like
Sure.
you're not so why not pass that on and like yes I see that that could be an opportunity for people to make a couple extra $100 and to support themselves but I'm hoping that this is a way for whatever writing passion that they had or passion they had that now they could be able to pursue that maybe there will be some new openings and I've told people in the past too especially like mentees that are in college that like one, you don't have to go into investigative journalism, but I'm bringing that up as an example that I think that's one of the like genres of journalism, if you will, that will be really hard for an AI to replicate.
Sure. Sure.
So I don't think that, I'm not as fearful that maybe some other people are about AI or machine learning replacing my
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that maybe this will free up time then for me to be able to do things that I actually enjoy
Yeah.
doing instead of that grunt work. So
Yeah.
I'm
That makes
staying
a lot of sense.
positive about it.
Yeah. When was the first time you saw the impact of one of your pieces, where you saw that it had an effect on either the people who were consuming it, the public, or the greater issue at large?
Yeah, I think like more recently, I doing environmental reporting here in New York City that a couple of years ago I published an investigation in a neighborhood called Gowanus in Brooklyn
Oh
that
yeah.
is infamous for the Gowanus Canal, one of the
Yep.
most polluted waterways in the country.
Yeah.
And that neighborhood, it got rezoned in 2021, so it's it's rezoned from industrial to residential. So there's a lot of changes. A lot of that land is contaminated from industrial pollution. And so one of the investigations I did was finding out that there was some contamination in the indoor air from a very popular venue that even I had been to a couple of times.
Mm.
And I published this thing. It took a long time to get through, data wise and everything. And, I didn't think that anyone would really be paying attention to it. And it was the community. I mean, to the point of like there were sides, and I still talk to people today. This was 2023 in that community, and they're like, yeah, like so and so still like doesn't like you because you did that piece, or like we love
Wow.
you. Oh, and like the different agencies for the first time, since I'm not from New York, it was
Yeah.
just weird like having a state environmental agency too, like getting pissed off, not because of like factual errors, but being like, we don't
How
like,
dare you?
yes, and like you're not a scientist. And I was like, don't know what to
Yeah.
tell you. So
Yeah.
that was actually kind of freaky because again, like to this day, going to Gowanus and talking to people, I'll say my name or something like, why does that sound familiar to me? And I'm like, I don't know. We don't need to get into it because
Yeah.
you probably, hate me. I don't know.
But it's the people that hated you, was that because you were just stirring the pot?
Well, I had repeatedly been told you are anti-development.
Oh,
You don't
wow.
want Gowanus to thrive, and I'm like,
Whoa.
I want Gowanus to thrive by ensuring that people's health and safety are in check.
Yeah.
So it was just very weird of like random people. I remember getting yelled at too by one person who's like head of an organization there. And then she hung up on me. And I'm just like, wow, I didn't realize this article would have such a visceral reaction because this was pretty, to me, like a straightforward.
Yeah, I think when you start to hit people, probably like in their pocketbooks, or is
So
where
yes,
they
yeah. It
they've
was
got
like,
the
I've
biggest
owned this
reaction.
building for 20 years and now my
Yeah.
property value might go down. I'm like,
Uh,
you've always known this area
Yeah.
was contaminated though. Like the canal has been here since the 1800s. So,
have you ever worked on a project where you felt unsafe?
um, only really one time I would say
Hmm.
that. I worked on a project with the Southern Poverty Law Center. It was a podcast called Sounds Like Hate. And during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, so besides like being afraid I was going to get COVID because we went to Michigan
Yeah.
for this project,
Yeah.
besides that, the podcast was about a neo-Nazi like white supremacist group. And me and my colleague, who was the co-host and executive producer of the show, we went to this small town in Michigan, and she is not white. And and we were walking around, and like there were times like even just walking around the community, like both
Wow.
of us felt unsafe. I remember going to like a gun store because we were trying to interview someone, and everyone was quiet. Like we opened the door, and then people were chatting, like you could hear them, and it
Yeah.
was silent. And everyone just stared at us, and I was like, I don't
Yeah.
think they've seen a brown person before.
Yeah. Clearly out of place there. So they're like, what's going on?
Yes,
Yeah.
and then besides like some of the people who were involved in this group like knew who I was, and I was afraid
Oh,
that
okay.
there could be issues with that. And like one of the guy's dads too threatened to like die by suicide after the podcast came out, and it was a whole
Whoa.
weird. So I was also afraid that we were going to get sued. None of that
Wow.
happened,
Yeah.
but that was
Yeah.
one project that I was like, things could have gone wrong at this point, this point, and this point.
Do you have any heroes in the investigative journalism space?
So here is such a strong word.
Or
me, but-
people you admire?
Yeah, I mean, one of my I shouldn't call him a buddy because I've only like talked to him once, but I really admire his work. He is now the president of IRE, which is the Investigative Reporters and Editors organization. And his name is Brian. He won a Pulitzer, I think, at 30, which is like totally commendable.
Yeah.
And he did his investigation was on the taxi medallions, and it was like
Oh.
great. Like I admire about him is that he is not only extremely thorough, and you can tell like he dots the I's and crosses the T's, but he also is a good storyteller. And I
Yeah.
think when like you're getting into wonky issues, being able to tell that in an eloquent, engaging
Mhm.
way is so hard that I don't see many people really crossing that mark of like, I was engaged in a story about taxi medallions. What do I know? Why should I care?
Yeah. Yeah.
But he makes you care about these people and like their plight. But yeah, Brian Rosenthal is his name. So I think I mean he's one of the ones at top of mind that I admire, who's like also a contemporary because we're like around the same age.
What's going on with taxis in New York? Are the medallions still around? There's so much competition. Or didn't they block Uber and Lyft for a while or something?
The medallions are still around.
Yeah.
There was, I thought, something weird about them, but like, you can go. I mean, the airport, you can still get a
Yeah.
Lyft or an
Yeah.
Uber. I
Yeah.
mean, So I don't know how much that accomplished, but like, that's also another thing too. Is like you spend years of your life on an investigation, and you're like, why is nothing happening? And if no change really happens with it, it's like, did I waste 4 years of my life on this? I don't know.
Yeah, most people don't understand that. I don't know what they were at the time. I think there were time, wasn't it like $100,000 for a medallion or something like
Yes.
that? It's
Yes.
crazy.
And it's like people can like hold on to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
medallion, and it's
yeah,
like they're not using it and just holding on as like because like an investment piece.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And then they rent it out or something like that too. Like you can have people with multiple medallions or just wild.
It's so strange, and that
Yeah,
to me was like that's totally New York, and where it's like
yeah.
only here would
Only in New
something
York
like
for
this
sure.
happen.
Yeah. So talk to me about the origins of the new show Hazard.
Oh yeah, so Hazard NJ for Hazard, New Jersey. It's through NJ Spotlight News and NJ PBS, which is the PBS affiliate in New Jersey. It's the second season, so we did our first season a couple of years ago. That was looking at the impacts of climate change on hazardous Superfund sites, which Superfund sites are the EPA designation for some of the most hazardous places in the country. And the whole idea is you're designated a Superfund site that you would be able to get funding to help clean it up from the federal government. It's the
Okay.
polluter pays model, but usually the feds pay and then bill the polluters for it. But that all is like becoming more relevant today because of the Trump administration and cuts to the EPA, and like they want to cut the Superfund. But that was the first season. This second season is about PFAS pollution because, believe it or not, this surprised me. The first PFAS chemical was created in a lab in New Jersey.
What's
So,
PFAS?
oh, PFAS or PFAS,
Oh,
the
okay.
forever chemicals.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
The forever chemicals that are even in like polar bears. So like they're everywhere. But it all started in New Jersey.
It was just a lab experiment?
It was DuPont. Yeah.
Of course, DuPont.
There was a guy and it was accidental. He was working for DuPont. He actually ended up moving to Texas to go work at DuPont and died in Texas. So I thought that was interesting that Mr. Plunkett
Yeah.
ended up in my home state working for DuPont. But so it's looking at the origins of these chemicals beginning in New Jersey and then sort of coming full circle that New Jersey is at the forefront. I mean, they're one of the few states that are really trying to clean these forever chemicals up and are
Yeah.
actually, pushing the companies that created the mess to pay for the cleanup. But it's engaging. I feel like, I mean, it is, I love horror, like I said. So I always, in almost every single episode, mention some kind of horror reference because
It's a horrific situation.
it's horrific. And also, like,
Yeah.
Friday the 13th fans, they filmed the first Friday the 13th movie in New Jersey. So I
Oh,
actually,
God,
like,
that's
went out
funny.
to the Boy Scouts camp where they filmed it and went on a
Oh,
tour.
nice.
And it was great. I had a great day. 4 hours wandering around with this tour guide. It was great.
Did you do it at night?
Oh, no. We didn't do it at night. That's more expensive. It was already expensive. But,
Okay.
yeah. But it was fun.
So how do you get rid of forever chemicals?
Oh yeah, that's the $1 million question. Like literally, whoever ever does discover
Yeah.
a way to officially remove them is going to be super wealthy. So there's all these ideas. One idea in particular, like that we feature in the show, is a lab in Princeton has created or discovered, I should say, bacteria
I've
that
heard that,
will
yeah.
eat, and so they have a patent on that. And then there's other folks at different universities in particular that are, have patents on different other ways
Okay.
of doing it. But right now there is no way to destroy forever chemicals once and for all. So whoever ever finds that out, I mean, people will people will incinerate
Sure.
these chemicals, but they're not destroyed forever. It goes into the air.
Yeah.
So there's
Someone else's problem.
someone else's problem, the next state when the air
Yeah.
blows that way, Connecticut. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's looking at that, but again, yeah, whoever, and the race is on. I mean, people are really seriously thinking like, if we can do this first, we will make so much money off of this, and they want to help, but
Yeah, for sure. As long as it's profit driven too, that's what keeps them
well,
motivated.
the society we live in. So like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I do.
yeah.
Vaguely familiar with it.
Thank you.
Well, it's the issue with microplastics too, right? They're like in everything now.
Yes. What is it that we have like a spoon size like plastic in our brain or something?
Oh,
I was
God.
reading.
Well, they have tests now too. I'm almost afraid to take it. I saw someone develop a test to test microplastics in our bloodstream. So
Is
babies are
it?
being born with it. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, because yeah, it's in
Yeah,
the umbilical cord. Yeah, in the blood. Yeah, I don't have
yeah.
children, so
It's a harsh world they're being introduced to for sure. But it's interesting how nature always finds a way because then you see like these bacteria that automatically, not automatically, but just like evolve and form, and they're just like, okay, we'll figure it out. Like we'll eat up like the microplastics with this new strain of bacteria that never existed before. It's crazy when you think about how nature's like trying to fix the mess that we keep making.
yeah. I mean, that's the beautiful thing of it. And even if it means getting rid of us, like,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I always say just need a strong enough earthquake or a tsunami. It just shakes us off like fleas. It's like the earth will be here long after we're gone.
oh, it will.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And if I follow those ancient civilization podcasts and shows, and those are rabbit holes for me. But you see, like they ask serious questions, like, okay, what would be around from a civilization like 3,000 or 10,000 years ago? Nothing. Like, considering like you think like all this stuff is going to be around, metal rusts. All this stuff is just going to be gone, and you just will be gone, and people will be studying, trying to find the remnants of our civilization like a
It'll just
thousand
be
years from now.
landfills of plastic bags.
Yeah, that's all. And roaches.
You know, that's okay.
So how do you decide what to work on? Is it you want to stick within this realm of like the environment and what's happening because that's your wheelhouse, or is there something when you look at a project, is there something about it that says, "Hey, this is a new challenge for me," or something I haven't tried before?
Yeah, I mean, my whole like obsession for the past couple of years has been around hazardous sites.
Okay.
I've just become super obsessed with hazardous sites. So not just Superfund sites, but just the idea for me of like how we got to this place. I mean, historical record of at one point in time we were definitely okay with just dumping every
Yeah.
kind of chemical into a body of water. Just
Yeah.
like the psyche of it that uh, it just is interesting to me about why people, because it really is a story of like why people do the things that they do and
Yeah.
what the ramifications and the lasting impact is when people think, oh, well, I'm going to be dead in 50, 60 years,
Sure.
so why would it matter?
Sure.
That is really interesting to me. And also, like, how do people, like those in Gowanus, for instance, or a lot of parts of Brooklyn in particular that are around hazardous sites, how does the community's identity get formed and play off of being in these spaces? How do you
Mm.
react to being in this space? And like, why would you want to live
Yeah.
in Gowanus, for instance, when you knew about the canal and the problems there?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm fascinated with it. And you get so many different colorful characters, and
I'm sure.
the people I've met, whether they love, hate, or whatever they think of me, have just been very interesting. And it's also a tale of of money. I mean, mentioning the property value, but also what makes a neighborhood and how neighborhoods change.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
gentrification, if you will, of that particular neighborhood.
Hmm.
So that's sort of like I think there are just so many places in the country and around the world to do stories on around hazardous sites, and like
Sure.
I think that, and I'm hoping that people won't completely get bored with my pitches around it. But I mean, um, and like keeping tabs on these sites too. I think that there aren't many folks that will report on, oh, okay, so the cleanup process is over, everything looks okay. We're not good with follow up on what
Mm.
actually happened 5, 10 years later. So
Yeah.
like Love Canal, I don't know if you're
Oh yeah.
familiar. So Love Canal, we all thought everything was fine and dandy with that. They're wanting to rebuild on
Oh
Love
no.
Canal and finding that it's actually not as clean as we once thought. It's not as bad as it was,
Yeah.
but so these communities, and also like cancer doesn't necessarily appear overnight.
Yeah.
What happens long term to people who were born and raised in these areas? So I would love more people to get involved in the hazardous site beat. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
Um,
Is there
because
like a crew of, you have a WhatsApp group or something for
we do
help?
not. I would love to see more people. Usually, I'll see
Yeah.
like when I see reporting on it outside of my own reporting, it's like someone will do a one-off because their beat is science or their
Okay.
beat is like health. But I
Yeah.
would love to like have my own little like group my little posse, if you will,
Your
of
hazardous sites meetup.
yeah, we just go around to these different sites,
Yeah. Yeah. How
yeah.
many Superfund sites are there?
there are 4 federal Superfund sites in New York
Okay.
City. And
Just
in
in
the
New York City.
country, just
Yeah,
in New York
sure.
City. And there's also state Superfund sites in New York City too.
Okay.
But the
Wow.
federal ones are the big issue. But
Yeah, it's crazy just thinking back in the days of like treating the rivers and the oceans like a toilet bowl. Just like, oh, it'll disappear somewhere. Like almost like people like in New York City flushing alligators down toilets or something like that.
but again, it's like it's New Jersey's problem. I love watching the
I know.
trash barges go to Jersey.
Yeah, poor Jersey. No love, no respect for Jersey.
Hey, I will say this, like I had all the same stereotypes that I'm sure a lot of people have about Jersey prior to doing the
Sure.
Hazard New Jersey show.
Yeah.
But after spending, 3 years going back and forth in different
Yeah.
communities, like I have a whole new respect and like profound admiration for people in New Jersey, especially there's some of the
Yeah.
activists in Newark that I'm like,
Mm.
you've been doing this for 40 years.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
Newark just routinely gets crapped on.
That's yeah.
And it's just completely not fair. And I wish more people would like be able to go and walk around and see Newark because
Yeah.
Newark is not, it's not a bad place. Like, don't be afraid of Newark.
Shout out to New York.
I never thought I would say, never thought I would say,
Look at
go,
you, shot bigging up Newark. Awesome. Do you have aspirations for doing like an actual documentary?
I've thought about it. I have worked on documentaries behind the
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah.
I don't operate cameras and I don't edit video. I've
Yeah.
tried and it just
Yeah.
frustrates me. I'll stick with just audio editing, but no,
Okay.
I've thought about doing like at least a short doc. My hometown that I mentioned, Seguin, there's been environmental issues since I was a kid, and doing something there or like some of the other smaller towns in Texas.
Bringing it full circle. That'd be great.
Bring it full circle, yes.
Small town girl makes good.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody wants to talk about the environment with me in
Yeah.
Seguin.
There's that beauty queen
Yeah,
talking about the environment again.
I mean, the funny thing is, I think the person that actually won, if I'm remembering
Yeah.
correctly, no, her husband works for oil and gas in Houston.
Oh.
I just thought, so we all still kind of know each other,
Sure.
but
That's funny.
yeah.
So a couple of questions as we wrap up. Thank you for this very fun conversation. What's something you've changed your mind about recently?
Something I've changed my mind about. Well, this is probably horror related because I do spend a lot of time watching horror movies. Okay, I will just give a shout out if people are not familiar. I was totally opposed to watching anything by a filmmaker named Mike Flanagan. He
Okay.
does horror movies, miniseries, specifically on Netflix, because
Okay.
all the Netflix marketing looked terrible. And then I gave it a shot and I watched a Netflix miniseries that's even more relevant today than it was when it was made. And it's called Midnight Mass,
Okay.
which is one of the best things I have ever seen
Really?
in my life. And so I ended up watching everything Mike Flanagan has ever done.
Oh, wow.
I feel like if you are in a depressed mood because of the state of the world, you should watch
Nothing
his
like
stuff.
a horror, like a horror series to get you out of your depression.
It has so much heart. It's not, I'm just like, I'm crying every
At
episode
a
of
horror
this.
movie.
I'm like, they're vampires and I'm crying. Mike Flanagan.
Okay. I
mean,
might have to put that on the list. So I think the move towards the gory stuff just completely turned me off. Because I grew up with some of the horror movies, the classics like Halloween, Friday the 13th, all that sort of stuff, Freddy Krueger. But then it just got to this weird blood and gore stuff that I was just like, nope.
The
Sorry.
torture porn, like the
Yeah,
early
no.
2000s. Yeah, it's nasty.
What's up with that?
There's no gore. Like I
No.
shouldn't say no. There's very little gore in Mike Flanagan's
Okay.
work. And like if you're, there's the intersection because he explores a lot about religion
Yeah.
and substance use disorder and
Okay.
literally, but it's be prepared to cry. Even my partner, I'm like, are you
Wow.
crying? And he was like, I'm a
Didn't see
man,
that
I can
coming.
cry, and I'm like, I know, it's so sad.
Oh, speaking of amazing series, have you seen Adolescence on Netflix?
I've never heard of it. No, what is? I'm gonna look.
Wow. 4-part series. British. It is. There's 4 episodes. Each episode is a single camera shot. So the entire 45 minutes of the episode is one camera following the actors around. It is mind blowing from a technical standpoint. The acting is crazy. I cried on that last episode. Speaking of crying, it's got 100. Last time we checked, it's got 100 ratings on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow. And it's
Yeah,
British,
I've
you
never
said?
seen it. Yeah, never seen it. It's one of the best shows on TV I've ever seen. And for me, it's usually like I'll say that about Breaking Bad. And
Yeah.
what was the one with the chef, the bear? The
Oh,
bear was really
I
good.
haven't seen The Bear.
The bear's really good too.
Is it
Yeah,
good? Okay.
yeah, it's really good. But adolescence, it's just mind blowing from every because you're s- you're the acting is so good, but then you're sucked in by the fact that it's a single camera. So like the technical aspects of how they pull it off, it's almost like you're watching a play because it's so intimate, and they pull it off because the acting is really good too. So yeah,
I have
people are
it.
yeah.
On my list now. Yes, I will watch this, and especially yes, if it has the crying. I don't know. It's
If it
therapeutic
makes
now.
dudes cry, yeah. I mean, I'm down for a good cry. It's the therapy you didn't know you needed. You're just like, whoa. My partner was like, she's like, okay, that clearly hit a nerve. Like that scene. She's like, let's talk about
Yeah, let's
that.
talk about it. That's what. Oh, I
I'm like,
mean,
okay, yeah.
even with like Midnight Mass, like it hit such a nerve too that I called my mom after like one of the like I think it was like the second episode, and I go, "What religion was I baptized in?"
Oh,
And I always thought that I was raised like lightly Lutheran. My
yeah.
mom found my baptismal like certificate. She was like, "It's not Lutheran," and I go,
Oh
"What is
no.
it?" She was like, "It's United Church of Christ," and I was like, "What am I? What am I now?" She's like, "You're not
Your
even
whole identity
religious."
has just been like, yeah, shattered.
Yes, so thanks, Mike Flanagan, for
That's
that.
another T-shirt too, lightly Lutheran.
Really?
You'll get a lot of questions about
Not
that.
anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not Lutheran at all.
What is the most misunderstood thing about you?
Oh, my last name and how to pronounce it. I do not choose my last name.
Let's set the record straight here then.
My last name is pronounced Gass-Pooré, and it's my mom's maiden last name, which is Goss, and my dad's last name, which is Poiré. And they decided to give me both last names, and so my mom's family only calls me Jordan Goss, like in cards, and my
Yeah.
dad's side only writes Jordan Poiré, but my legal
Oh.
name is Jordan Gass-Pooré, and
And
it's
is there an
confusing.
accent at the end of the E?
There's supposed to be like some acute. I'm not French. I don't know. I'm lazy.
Yeah.
So it's an apostrophe for life. Like I don't know. I do have an English major. I am an English major, but like yeah, just fine.
So what's next for you? Like, what are you excited about? Is it you're gonna stay focused on like hazard and put your attention there, or given the peek at your past LinkedIn experiences, it sounds like you might be itching for a change soon.
Well, I am looking for a home to do another hazard series. So I was considering doing a something in Texas, so like a hazard like ATX or a
Okay.
hazard San Antonio or something like
Okay.
that to go back to Texas, even though I said I don't want to live there, which
Yeah.
I'm not going to move there
Yeah.
again to do something like that because I think that it's needed. There's a lot of hazardous sites in Texas, so yes. So that's my
Seems
next thing.
okay. Seems like you have no shortage of material. You're never gonna run out of stuff to talk about.
No, as long as people, will still take it.
Yeah.
And funding hasn't completely dried up, which is
Yeah.
a whole other thing. But so
Well, thanks for reaching out and connecting. I know we had a couple of like reschedules and
yes, because
just
my
a
work schedule and stuff.
lot of
Sorry
stuff
about
going
that.
on. And mine, I think I had to reschedule one as well. So, but I'm glad we got to finally connect, and it's always nice to connect with some New York City energy as well. It's fun. So, say hi to the rats for me.
I will. Oh, I'm just like you stay over there. I'm here. We're good.
We were somewhere at night one time, and we were coming back to get the car from a parking lot, and it was one of those buildings that had a ton of construction going on. And all of a sudden, across the sidewalk, a sea of rats just like was running across the sidewalk, probably 50 or 60 rats. And we're like, we had to go through there because of like the scaffolding. And my friend grabbed the stick and he starts banging on the ground, yeah, 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 screaming. And they just parted like the sea. And then, but the scary part is like, as we were walking through, they just closed ranks behind us and just like, we got to keep moving forward. It was like an Indiana Jones thing. It was so gnarly and so New York City. I'm just like, this fucking town, man, is crazy. It's just like you love-hate relationship with it.
Yes, that is insane. I wish there would have been video of that because
It was just made, yeah, a lot of people sick. But well, thanks again for connecting. I'm so glad, got to hear your story and all the amazing things you've been working on, and your podcast OG story is really great and inspiring. And I think also how you've like decided from early on, like how much of a passion you had for writing and just been following that thread through and just this idea of like following your passion. I think this is like a really awesome example of that. And so the fact that you continue to do that is truly inspiring. So thank you.
well, I appreciate it. Thanks, Harry. Talk soon.
Where's the best place for folks to kind of learn more about you and see what's going on in your life?
Yeah, I mean LinkedIn. You can message me on LinkedIn. I've always lived in on. On LinkedIn. If you want to
Okay.
know all about me, yes.
So we'll have links to your LinkedIn and the show in the show notes as well. Thanks, Jordan.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye, Harry.